Portland's early winter isn't cold enough to cut through the skin, but it's not warm enough to make you want to wake up early. It hasn't snowed yet, but the sky is always a distinctive ash gray. Like the sound of a radio between two stations, a crackling, unclear sound that anyone who has lived long enough in this city knows. It's the season for introverts. Evelyn Vo wakes up at 6:02 a.m. Like every other day, she doesn't use an alarm clock. Her body, after many years, has gotten used to the rhythm of waking up, working, turning off. No excess, no shortage. Like a machine running on instinct. In her fifth-floor apartment, everything is arranged precisely down to the centimeter. On the bookshelf, novels are sorted by cover color. The orchid on the windowsill faces east to catch the sun on time. Nothing is expired in the refrigerator. Nothing is superfluous. Except silence. Silence is as thick as a layer of fog that surrounds her mind every morning, not because she's sad, but because she's used to living with it. She made coffee. No sugar. Oat milk. A third of the cup was foam. 3 fingers rested on the handle, the little finger always lightly touching the rim as a silent reflex. It had been a habit since her days in Seattle, when her mother would often yell, "Hold your cup properly." Evelyn held it, and never let go. She turned on her computer. The screen was filled with drafts that needed editing. A new novel by a young, budding author about a girl who escapes her family's memories to find her voice. Evelyn laughed, very softly. There are so many self-liberation writers these days. She had heard another editor say in the office. But Evelyn didn't respond that day. She rarely argued. Because she knew, if she talked too much, someone would call her too sensitive. She had heard that phrase too many times at home, in class, on quick dates. Evelyn lived as if she were walking on thin ice. Softly, softly, and if there was a sound, she would be the first to retreat. She used to think that was her nature. Until recently, when a question in her first therapy session quietly shattered the mirror she had been looking at for 34 years. Evelyn, when was the first time you felt like you weren't allowed to speak up? She didn't answer. But that night, she dreamed of a scene she thought she had forgotten. An 8-year-old girl. Standing outside the kitchen door, her hands clutching the hem of her nightgown, listening to her mother yell at her sister, "Everything is on Vivian. What about you? Are you so good? If you are so good, then say it." And when Evelyn spoke, everything went silent. Her mother turned. Her eyes were as cold as ice. "You dare to argue?" Evelyn learned from that. Silence is the safest defense. Now, 26 years later, in an apartment with a modern heater and light brown curtains, Evelyn still lives like the little girl she was. Not saying too much. Not revealing too much. Not letting anyone know what she's thinking. Until the phone rings. It's her mother. The caller ID is clearly displayed. Mom, Seattle. Evelyn puts down her coffee cup. She doesn't pick up right away. She knows her mother isn't calling to ask, "How are you?" but to talk about Lucas, her talented, unruly youngest brother, who just started a crypto brokerage and might be in debt. I'll ask Evelyn to help. She understands. She's heard her mother say that to the neighbors. It's sweet, but it's like a plastic chain, soft enough not to hurt, but very tight. Evelyn sighs softly, and for the first time in years, she doesn't pick up the phone. 3 days after her mother's missed call, Evelyn showed up at the King Street train station in Seattle, dragging a small suitcase. She hadn't called ahead. She knew no one would actually pick her up. It was drizzling in Seattle. The kind of light, misty rain that wets hair but doesn't make anyone need an umbrella. Evelyn got into a gray Uber and headed for 1462 Fairmont Drive, the Vo family home. The house where she grew up, but never really belonged. The doorbell never rang. The door was unlocked. As usual, Evelyn pushed the door open. The smell of braised fish wafted from the kitchen. The lights were on. The sound of knives and cutting boards clacking. She heard her mother mumble, "Why does this pot always burn?" Evelyn took off her shoes and walked into the house without anyone looking up. Her mother, Mrs. Hong, stood with her back turned in the kitchen. Her father, Mr. In, sat watching Vietnamese news on YouTube, headphones on. "You're home." Mrs. Hong's voice rang out without turning around. Evelyn replied, "Yes." And that was the end of the welcome. The dining table was crowded but cold. Dinner started at 6:30 as usual. On the table were braised fish, cabbage soup with shrimp, fried eggs, and a Southern-style braised meat dish. Vivian, her older sister, also came back, sitting next to her mother, wearing thin-rimmed glasses, eating while glancing at her phone. Lucas had not come back yet, her mother said, her voice slightly reproachful. That guy knew Evelyn was coming back today, but still didn't come on time. Then she turned to Evelyn. "He's busy with work. The company is newly established. It's a bit difficult. But can you try to help him? You work in an office. You should understand banking paperwork." Evelyn pursed her lips. She had not answered yet. Vivian smiled lightly, not at Evelyn, but at her mother. "I told you, just worry. Evelyn, she always helps." Evelyn put down her chopsticks. She felt her eyes burning. But not because she was angry, but because she realized she was being treated as a fixed role in the family script. She was not asked, "Are you okay?" She was not asked, "Do you want to help?" Just, "Evelyn. She understands." The empty chair. Lucas's seat. Half an hour later, Lucas walked in. His hair was gelled, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his phone in his hand. "Sorry, everyone. I'm in a meeting with the new token." No one blamed him. No one mentioned the delay. Only her mother stood up to scoop more soup into Lucas's bowl, saying, "Eat up, son. You're getting thin." Evelyn looked at that scene, and something in her heart broke slightly. Like a crack in a glass, not completely broken, but enough that every time she poured water, a little pain would seep out. The meal ended in paralysis. When everyone stood up, her mother said, "Tomorrow we're all going to church. There's a memorial service for Aunt Sao. Can you go, Evelyn?" Evelyn nodded, not because she wanted to go, but because if she refused, there would be a series of looks and questions. "Can't you come back for a bit?" She cleared the dishes. No one told her. No one asked her. But that was what she had always done since she was little. Vivian took a shower. Lucas went upstairs to make a phone call. Her father was still glued to the news. Her mother opened the refrigerator to check the meat. Evelyn washed the dishes alone and wondered, why call it reunion when no one actually saw each other again? Evelyn always thought her childhood was stable. No hunger, no beatings, no separation. She ate 3 meals a day, went to a good school, had her own desk in the living room. But at age 34, when Dr. May asked, "Have you ever felt hurt even though no one touched you?" she realized there are cuts that come from silence, not violence. Seattle, 1998. Evelyn was 9 years old. One weekend afternoon, Evelyn's parents went to the Vietnamese market in the Rainier area. The three sisters were home. Vivian was studying for a gifted student exam. Evelyn was playing with dolls, and Lucas, then 4 years old, was running around the room with a red marker in his hand. Evelyn remembers it clearly. She was busy putting together a dollhouse, not paying attention. Just a few minutes later, Lucas ran into the kitchen. Then there was a loud noise, clang. When her mother came home, the first thing she saw was the kitchen wall was covered in red paint, and the floor was covered in blood red ink, and there was a spilled ink bottle next to it. Who did it? Her mother asked, her voice sharp. Vivian didn't know. Lucas bowed his head, standing behind the chair, his hands still red. Evelyn stammered, I think Lucas. Silence. Her mother walked over, glaring at her. You dare blame your brother? Evelyn was stunned. I didn't blame. I'm the older sister. I'm supposed to look after my brother. He's only 4. No one taught me to blame the younger. But I didn't do it. Shut up. The scream pierced Evelyn's chest like a bullet. It didn't hurt right away, but it burned. After that, the punishment wasn't a spanking. It was silence. Evelyn was denied dinner, kneeling in the yard for 2 hours in the middle of early winter. No one said a word. No one looked at her. Lucas? Still sitting there eating noodles with boiled eggs, playing with the toy truck. Her mother closed the kitchen door. Vivian was silent too. Only her, kneeling on the tile floor, her knees aching. And the question echoing in her head, why doesn't anyone believe me? Back to the present. 2024. Evelyn sat in her old room. Her mother had repainted the walls, replaced the bed and the table. But the old painting was still there, a faint stain on the wall near the window, where the paint was uneven. She looked at it like a witness. Then she bent down and took out a leather notebook from her suitcase, her therapy notebook. The first line she wrote was, I didn't lie that day, but I've learned. The truth is not as important as who told it. After the family dinner last night, Evelyn felt like the 9-year-old girl she once was. Lucas was still the busy little brother. Vivian was still the exemplary big sister. And she? Still the middle child, unbothered, unfavored, untrusted. But there was one difference. Now Evelyn was no longer kneeling. She straightened her back, left the room, stepped out onto the porch, and took a deep breath of the cold November air. Where are you? Mom called from the kitchen. Evelyn turned back. Her voice calm, I'm going out for a bit. She walked away, without waiting for anyone's permission. Dr. May's office is on the 2nd floor of an old brick building in Portland's Belmont neighborhood. Below is a used bookstore, next to a quiet cafe that plays jazz. Evelyn chooses a 10 a.m. appointment time, a time she thinks is away from the world. The treatment room doesn't have a gray sofa like in a movie, but 2 old leather armchairs, facing each other, next to a window with light white curtains. To the right is a messy, unsorted bookshelf. On the wall hangs a black and white photograph, an arm reaching out of water. It's unclear whether it's sinking or reaching up. Evelyn had seen that photo in a poem, but she never thought she'd see it again, right where she was sitting. Dr. May Holloway is in her early 50s. Her gray hair is pulled back into a bun. Her face isn't smiling, but it's not cold. Her eyes have a way of making you feel not judged. Are you okay coming back here, Evelyn? Evelyn nodded. Fine. A mechanical fine. Like always. Like everywhere. Dr. May nodded slightly. We can talk about anything today. No order. No purpose. Where do you want to start? Evelyn was silent. Her eyes were fixed on the picture on the wall. I don't know. I'm just tired. Dr. May said nothing more. She sat still, as if waiting for Evelyn to walk through an invisible door. After a moment, Evelyn said, I feel like people always expect me to understand. To understand so as not to blame. To understand so as to forgive. To understand so as to help. I understand everything. But no one ever asks me if I can handle it. And when I say it, they say I'm sensitive. Evelyn's voice caught on the word sensitive. Dr. May still didn't interject. She just tilted her head. Her voice soft. Have you ever wondered if you trust your own feelings? Evelyn paused. The question was not a hard blow, but a needle. Soft, but hitting the right spot. She was silent for a long moment. Then she shook her head. No, I'm not sure. I feel guilty when I feel hurt. As if it bothers others. Dr. May leaned over, reached for a small notebook from a drawer. She handed it to Evelyn. You can use this to write down all the feelings you experience during the day. No explanation, no rationalization. You can write as if no one is reading it. Evelyn took the notebook. She looked at the first page, blank. Just like herself now, an unwritten piece of paper, but afraid of every word. May said softly, Evelyn, you don't have to be rational to be loved. Sometimes my truth will make people uncomfortable. But that doesn't make me wrong. Evelyn bowed her head. A tear fell, so small she didn't wipe it away. I don't want to upset anyone, but I don't want to disappear anymore. Dr. May nodded. That's a start. Before the date ended, Evelyn stood up. Still holding the notebook, she turned to ask, how can I not feel guilty when I choose to live differently? Dr. May looked at her, her eyes breaking into sunlight. There's no way. Only time. And the courage to not go back. Evelyn didn't go home that afternoon. She walked around the Belmont neighborhood, stopped at the coffee shop next door, and ordered an iced espresso, something she had never ordered before. She took out her notebook, opened it to the first page, and wrote, I was never angry with them. I was angry with myself for locking myself into comfort. The clock on the wall ticked in the darkness like slow footsteps in a hospital hallway. Evelyn lay in her room at her parents' house in Seattle. The room was now a storage room, a folding exercise chair in the corner, a few boxes of instant noodles stacked high like a tower, an undisposed trash bag that still smelled of plastic. The bed was a makeshift foam mattress. The blanket was the synthetic down blanket her mother used for guests. There was no proper pillow. Just a lumbar pillow stuffed with a cotton blanket to make it high enough. Evelyn wanted nothing more. She had learned early on to go without. The phone rang at 1:42 a.m. The screen read Mom, Seattle. She hesitated for a few seconds, then pressed answer. Her mother's voice rang out, hoarse, urgent. Evelyn. Lucas was in an accident. He's at Harborview. Evelyn sat up. What? What accident? Car crash, on the way home from girlfriends. I don't know. But the doctor said spinal cord injury. I don't understand. They need someone to do the insurance paperwork. Because he doesn't have enough papers? A pause. They said they might need a temporary legal representative. Just sign it. I'm going to the hospital tomorrow. But they said the closest relative should be there early. The familiar words rang out. You help me. Only you can help. How many times had she heard that? She couldn't remember. It could have been the 30th, the 50th, or the 100th. Each time, she helped. quietly, without being asked. But this time, something stopped in her chest. Evelyn looked out the window. The streetlight shone through the old curtains, shining on a small crack in the ceiling. Not big, but no one noticed it. Like herself, she took a deep breath. For the first time, she asked again, "Mom, why is it that whenever Lucas has problems, I am the one who gets called? Vivian is also my sister. She is closer. Why don't you call her?" Mom was silent for a moment. Then she exhaled. "Vivian is on a business trip. But I understand better. I am gentle. I know how to handle things." Evelyn felt her heart tighten. The word know-how as familiar as if it had been a nickname she had carried for the rest of her life. But today, she was no longer the old Evelyn. "Mom, I can call a lawyer to help me. Or I will send you the information so you can file it for me. But I didn't go to the hospital." "You didn't go?" Mom's voice snapped, surprised and annoyed. "Your son is in the hospital. Not knowing if he will live or die, and you didn't go." "Mom, do you know that I am tired too? I don't live just to help people. I am a person, not a support staff." On the other end of the line, there was a long silence. Then her mother hung up. No hello. No thank you. No appointment. Evelyn sat in her room, still holding the phone. Her heart was pounding, not because of fear, but because she had just stepped out of a family taboo, saying no to the role they had set for her. The next morning, Evelyn did not turn on her phone. She walked to Green Lake, sat on the familiar old wooden bench. A couple rode by on their bikes. A little girl played on the swings. No one knew that last night she had done the biggest thing in her life, not coming. She opened her treatment book. The first line read, "For the first time, I chose not to react. I'm not a bad person. I just don't want to be considered the default anymore." She didn't regret it, but she was sad. Sad as if someone had just put down a heavy burden, not because of regret, but because that burden had been her entire identity. Evelyn was sitting in front of her computer, editing the final chapter of her novel, How to Leave Without Guilt, a novel by a new writer named Kiara Reed. The story was a diary of a woman who left her exhaustingly kind life to live true to herself. The more she edited, the more suffocated Evelyn felt. Not because the writing was bad, but because it sounded so much like herself. "I'm tired of being the one who understands, and no one understands me." She read that sentence silently, then laughed. It was as if someone had written her thoughts since she was 16. The phone rang. It was her mother again. Evelyn hesitated, but this time she picked up. "Hello, I'm listening." "Lucas is gone." Her mother's voice wasn't as panicked as before, but it was harsher, as if she was breaking down inside, but still trying to maintain her image. "What's gone?" "His company. His investment. All his friends who invested together turned their backs on him. Some threatened to report him to the police. He's scared out of his wits." Evelyn squeezed her sleeve. She had a feeling that what her mother was about to say next was not information, but a push. He said, "Just need me to help him borrow a loan. It'll only take a few months to turn around. No debt. With a proper contract." Evelyn let out a breath. "I can't do it, Mom." There was a long silence. "Why not?" "I've worked in banking for years, with a high salary. I have my own house. I don't have any children. If I don't help him, who will?" Evelyn smiled softly, bitterly. "Because I don't have any children. I have to raise your son." On the other side, her mother was stunned. Then, as if hurt. What do you mean by that? Evelyn didn't answer. But she knew. What she meant was clear. You are no longer a savior. You are no longer a backup plan. That night, Vivian called. Called via Zoom. Evelyn hesitated, then accepted. On the screen, her sister, neat, white blouse, slightly tense face, spoke. Are you angry with Mom? I'm not angry. I just don't want to continue like that anymore. Vivian sighed. Lucas is really bad, but he's my brother. Who else do we have, Evelyn? Evelyn curled her lips. We have each other. But only if the other person doesn't refuse. Vivian was silent. For the first time, she didn't say anything right away. Then she said, softly, You know, sometimes I'm jealous of you. Evelyn was surprised. Jealous? Of you? Yeah. I'm not the eldest. I'm not forced to be successful. Set an example. I can live in peace without pressure. Evelyn fell silent. Sister, I wasn't taught to be quiet. I was taught to be quiet. They both fell silent. The call ended with a forced goodnight.